Okay, welcome everybody to Tuesday, October 30th, Ask the Experts webinar. I can tell you that both Derek Murphy and I, who are on the webinar tonight, are both dressed up in Halloween costumes. I'm not going to tell you what we're dressed up as. I will say, however, that one of the new swag items is yoga pants. We'll just leave it at that. You can use your imaginations, as Derek is doing right now. So
you have to realize that up until yesterday, I did own a yoga studio. So
oh wow, God, there's so many interesting things going to happen today.
I know.
In any case, as you now know, Derek Murphy is the guest expert today. He's the general manager at Studica, who the actual warehouse that we both work out of. First Canada has some space in the Studica warehouse, is located in Mississauga. And today Derek is going to give us some information about buying parts and lots of other stuff. There's all sorts of things going on at Studica, more than probably I know, and I'm going to learn as much as probably that you do today. As always, we're going to record this webinar, and it'll be posted on the First Canada YouTube channel. And once it's up there, I will post a link to it on the First Canada Facebook page. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to ask as we go along. Type them into the question box, and we'll ask Derek as we go along. Hopefully, he'll answer most of the questions as we go, but for sure there's always some questions that we do have. So once again, welcome, Derek, and take it away.
Thank you very much, Paul. I'd just like to start and just give everybody who hasn't or doesn't know about Studica a brief overview. We're proud to be a gold supplier for First Robotics again this year. We're trying to get up to the platinum, but Mark asks a lot out of you. I'd have to drive 2 forklifts, I think, to get platinum. This will be our 3rd year supplying and supporting First teams and First events all across Canada. And I hope to see everybody out at more than one event this year, and we'll see how we can help to support you and provide you with parts, expertise, and just some good cheer as everybody looks at First Robotics. A little bit about Studica. We do develop, manufacture, and distribute both mechanical and electrical parts for mobile robotics and the competitive robotics market. Most of our robotics market focuses on education, and we do conduct robotics education, training, and events actually worldwide. I know next week, actually, I'm on my way to Thailand for some robotics events. And we do carry the First flag around the world. So if anybody ever has any questions about what happens at First events, or if they want to get invited around the world, if you can fund it, we can probably get you invited. Studica itself has been around for over 30 years now, and it's one of the goals of our staff to try to support the First community and to help the educational robotics market. We are continually working with both ourselves and our suppliers to develop and distribute new components to you, to your students, and to just robot builders in general. When I tell people to focus on new components, well, you won't know what the game is. Remember that new parts generally start arriving about a month beforehand. So I would watch for what says new. It helps people when they're thinking about what's coming in the future. Our partners are AndyMark in the US, which is probably the largest supplier of parts to First robotics teams. And I spent 1 week this summer at AndyMark with Andy Baker and his wife and everybody, looking at parts and looking at the distribution services. And I'll talk a little bit later about how we can try to improve what we're doing with AndyMark and that partnership. We also deal with Rev Robotics out of Texas, and we do some development work with Rev and I'm a strong, large partner with Kawai Labs. New products coming in the future for your robots for Kawai Labs. I know that that many of you use the NavX MXP or the NavX in order to help your robot in autonomous mode. And in fact, we did write all of the LabVIEW libraries for the NavX for Kawai Labs. Our overall support consists of several things. So we do sponsor several robot and 3D events, and we will be doing that again this year. And in fact, I think Paul, due to some circumstances, Paul and I will actually be helping out and putting together some robot in a day events for new teams as well. We have team sponsorship credits. You can now ask politely. I probably have 8 or 12 teams that we do that with some of the strong people. And I know some people on this webinar may get those and some people not. But we'll work with you to help you do things. We do provide direct support to First Canada. We'll talk about that. So First Canada's warehouse is in our warehouse. We give them about 8,000 square feet. We move things in and out. And yes, I do drive the forklift for First Canada to load the trucks. We also provide engineering and manufacturing support for teams. So we have equipment in our facility that teams can use. I know it's great for local teams, but we do a little bit of a custom manufacturing, and we can help you out with that when you're trying to build and design your robots. So feel free to get in touch with us. Of course, at any time that you wish. We do event volunteers. We do the pit support at all events. So you will see me or one of my staff in the pit at all events. With that pit, depending upon what good Mr. Hobbins wants, we will be running the machine shop to help you in the pits. We will be supporting the pits and helping First run their spare parts. Unfortunately, with spare parts, there's only a certain amount at the start of the first event, and they tend to get depleted as we go along. That said, and I will point out further on that if you are attending an event and you do need parts to save on shipping, to save on anything or what you think you may need, please let me know in advance. We will make sure that a truck is at that event full of parts so that you can make changes to design, or if something breaks, you can get parts from us. We will have weekly First Friday specials. So if you're on the list, and what I mean by the list, somebody that we talk with on a general basis, every Friday we're going to have something that we'll put on special to save you a little bit of money. I know last year a lot of it was intake wheels or green wheels, so just let us know. Once again this year as well, we will have a first practice field and support hub at our Mississauga location. So the goal is to have that field up and ready prior to launch. That said, because of NDA, we will not, or probably not, have the actual field elements or build the field elements until probably 3 or 4 days in. Last year we had launch on Saturday, and the events were actually built and put together and ready to go on Monday night. So it was a pretty good turnaround for teams to be able to come in and to do things like that. All right. Okay. So that we have put together, and you're free to call me and come in at any time. I did tell Paul that I've recently moved 3.5 hours north of Toronto, which means that I don't go home anymore during the week. So they're getting me a cot to spend at that office every night. You can see this is a picture of a couple of teams from last year. So in the hub area, we will have the court set up, and you will be able to practice. That hub also has 2 CNC machines, manual machines, okay, a workspace area for you to work on your robot, and little parts, 3D printers, and so on that we can help you with as well if you're interested in bringing your team to the hub location. A couple of things about stock and inventory, because people ask me all the time. I don't control our website, and I'm not the programmer, so our website does not show live inventory. I do apologize for that. We do stock currently over 600 parts in the warehouse, right? And I do tell people that, you know, call us, you'll get a better price, you'll get better delivery, okay? And we can help you make sure that you do get the right parts for your robot. That said, if you're looking at AndyMark or Rev and it shows that they're out of stock, that does not necessarily mean that I don't have the parts. As an example, right now, I am the only one in the world who has RoboReels. Okay, and the reason is that I buy my RoboReels direct from National Instruments because we have a strong partnership with NI worldwide. Please don't forget that some products go out of stock very quickly. So last year I had some teams pre-order green wheels. I actually had 500 green wheels in my warehouse on launch day, and I had 0 on Wednesday. Okay, lift mechanisms were gone as well. And you know, I need to look at what I said earlier because I'm not party to the secrets. But if I see a new product come out from AndyMark 2 weeks before the event, I'll make sure that I have that in inventory for you. All right. That said, if you snooze, you could lose. Okay, so you know, make sure you ask for a product to be set aside if you want, just in case you're going to need it, and we'll tag that for you, set it aside, give you 3 or 4 days, just so that you know what is going on with it, and then you can decide whether you would like that product. All right. So there's lots there. I encourage you, please give us a call, but don't wait till the last minute. Game pieces. For the last 2 years, we've stocked game pieces for teams. What we did was we estimate what we think 85% of all the teams in Canada will need. Okay, it's very, very difficult with game pieces because sometimes in order to help First run events, I also have to provide game pieces. I put 2 up as an example. One is the small balls from 2 years ago. At the end of the season, I had 21,000 of those balls left over. So you can see it's difficult to decide what people will want or what people will not want. The cubes and the yellow covers last year, I think we did pretty good on. We were only short probably about 40. And I actually ended up, believe it or not, flying some in that I found in Australia for our first teams when the US was completely out of them. So we will have game pieces. We will have game pieces in our warehouse at launch. Okay, so I have a deal where I get them probably shipped to me the Thursday before launch. So if you need more game pieces, we will have them for you right away after launch. So I'd just like to point that out to everybody.
Derek, I have a couple of questions.
Thank you.
First of all, Alan Tom says good evening.
Good evening, Al.
Kim Cooper has a couple of questions. She says, is there any way of increasing the amount of inventory to cut down on shipments and waiting, or do you have limited access to certain parts?
I have full access to all parts. I currently brought in the last 2 weeks 5 skids of inventory. All right. What I do is I take a look at what was most successful the year before, and I now pre-inventory those parts. Okay. That said, I am, and I tell people that I'm on a priority list with AndyMark. We all know they like to ship FedEx, and my FedEx is FedEx Express overnight. So if there's parts in stock, I will get them to you. And I think I'll talk a little bit more about that in the future. There are some things that we cannot stock. An example is an EVO shifter. These are built to order, all right? However, we have streamlined the delivery time on these. We've come up with a little bit of a sequence for people who want EVO shifters. So when they're built, I can usually get them in a day. That said, during build season, remember that it takes 2 to 3 days to build an EVO shifter, and then I have to get them.
So Kim has another question. She says, what did you do with the leftover 21,000 balls? And did you say 21,000?
I had pretty well 21,000 balls. So some went to Quebec for an event, and we took 2 skids of those balls, and they were actually dropped on Chris Arnold in his office as a practical joke. So after that, I'm not quite sure exactly what that school did with them, but I did see the YouTube video, and it was pretty good. Yeah. That said, when Kim Cooper is on the line, please, I was going to put into my presentation, there is lots of stock on Kim's book, all right? And I encourage everybody to buy that because that proceeds of that book support First Canada. So make sure you talk to Kim and you get a copy of her book.
That's all the questions we have right now.
All right, so we'll talk about the pits a little bit. We will be in the pits at all events to assist teams with robot repair and modifications. I say repair and modifications. I think the very first event at Ryerson last year, we pretty well built a whole lift mechanism. We are limited on what we have for equipment, and we're limited on what we have for equipment based upon the amount of space that we have in a truck to get that to the pits, but we will be there as we go. One of our goals this year is to take to every event, and you know, Florence isn't mad at me if I can find the space, a CNC machine or a large CNC machine, so that we can actually work with your CAD drawings and try to make you some very good and precise parts. We also will have parts available. We have 2 parts carts that we take to every event. And they're there. And as I said earlier, if you want free delivery, let me know what event you will be at, and we will make sure that component parts are there ready for you to pick up when you come in to set up for the event, whether that be on the Thursday or the Friday. So we'll be in the pits working away. If I'm not in the pits, I'll be with Paul, by the way, because if somebody else runs the machine shop and they do their own event, then I help Paul sell swag. So I promise to do that with you, Paul.
Thank you.
Okay. I do want to talk a little bit about the AndyMark product donation voucher, or the PDV. Okay. A little bit of information on that and the how-to on PDV. Teams that opt out of getting the kit of parts will receive a code for a PDV in your main contacts account. Okay. You can use this code as many times as you want until the value is exhausted, or until April the 30th. On April the 30th, your code expires. Right? So in the past, if you've gone to AndyMark's website, you've been able to create an account and enter in a PDV code. Right? With us in Canada with Studica, the amount will be $575 Canadian. And you can choose whether you want the amount to include or not include shipping. And we're going to talk a little bit more about shipping, or I can do that now. Website standard shipping for us is United Parcel Service. So it calculates the rate based upon your postal code and our postal code and the weight of the shipment. Okay, I get shipping, I understand shipping. And if it's too expensive for you, give us a call and we'll find another method for you. All right. We do have to be careful. We've already this year lost a complete rookie starter kit. So a $4,500 item that was simply dropped off at someone's house in Kingston. And when the unfortunate team got there, all that was left was the plexiglass sheet. Everything else was gone. Okay. Your PDV orders through us must be processed and tracked by us manually. We don't have the ability to put an online PDV code in for you. The simple reason for that is that we need to have some sort of confirmation from AndyMark that your PDV code is valid, all right? And I do not get direct access to their website, of course, for security reasons. And they do not get direct access to our website for security reasons for those accounts, all right? So that says if you give me your PDV, we have our own PDV tracker. We'll track it for you. We'll help you out, and we'll make sure that you can use up your PDV credits. New for this year, after my meeting, is all items that we sell, you can use your PDV for. Okay. Last year, certain items that AndyMark didn't make were not eligible in Canada. Okay. And that simply had to do with the fact that discount structure and the way that AndyMark had put that together for us. This year, we'll accept your PDV for everything. So, for instance, a Robo-Rio big ticket item, you can use your PDV for. We'll do that for you, and you know, Studica is going to work out the back end of that, okay, with AndyMark. So hopefully, for you in Canada this year, that will extend a little bit of the value that you have with that PDV donation voucher. All right.
So
now we'll talk a little bit about.
I just
Are you going to
wanted
ask me that question, Paul?
No. I was going to make a point before that, because when you mentioned the first point, you just stopped at kit of parts. You didn't include kit of parts drive. So for those teams that may not be clear on this, First in the States allows you on your dashboard to a certain point, and that point is passed, to opt out of the kit of parts chassis drive, the aluminum frame that you would get. With all teams can get that unless they opt out, and because teams would opt out, they would get this voucher, and that's what Derek is talking about. Because there is some confusion with this PDV voucher and a first choice, and that was the question that I was going to ask at this point.
Right. So the difference is that the product donation voucher, since AndyMark is the supplier of the chassis, that value is actually valued as an AndyMark part. So if you opt out of the kit of parts drive, then that value you still get from AndyMark. As AndyMark's representative in Canada, we pass that value on to you for AndyMark products. Your first choice credit has nothing to do with Studica or AndyMark directly. Your first choice credit comes from First head office. The reason you're at an AndyMark website to process it is they are simply the fulfillment house. So they actually have a completely separate area in their warehouse full of parts that you can get through First Choice that are supplied to AndyMark by First. All they do is they go into that warehouse, pull those parts, and ship those to you. So that's what a First Choice credit is, and I hope that explains it to everybody what the difference is between a PDV product donation voucher and your First Choice credits. So there's a quick overview of the PDV process. I encourage you to get a quote for your items. You're going to save yourself a little bit of money because the sales guys are actually nicer than the people who program the website. You got to give your PDV voucher code to us. We verify your code and at which time it gets removed from the AndyMark system. Okay, we'll then work with you to track your PDV value, and if there's a balance left over, that you owe on the gift certificate, we can apply that to subsequent orders. If you owe more money, then we will allow you to use credit card or PO or etc. One point on credit card, well, it's very difficult to track you down sometimes. I still have outstanding bills from last year. If it's easier for you, because a lot of times I know that everyone on the team is supporting their team initially with their own credit card. So if it takes time, we will bill the school or the school board for you. You can submit the bill for them to pay us so that you're not using up your own credit card, okay? It saves people a lot of headaches. It saves you credit card fees, and it saves me credit card fees. We'll just do that for you. So, you know, any balance due, that's how you would do it. I do encourage you to use up your PDV because remember, it expires April the 30th. Believe it or not, last year there was teams that left money on their PDV value, okay? So April 30th, they get stopped and ended when you are going to work on that process, okay? Questions. You can ask questions on inventory. I know Kim did just ask a question. I think I tried to talk about shipping and the best way to do that. So if you're not happy with UPS, if UPS doesn't come to your area, we're working out a deal with Canada Post right now, and we'll do that. Design questions for your robot, please feel free to call us anytime so that we can ensure that what you're getting for your robot and your design, okay, is correct and matches the right way. All right, and I have several issues with some designs. For instance, sim motors and sim motor gearboxes are not designed to be used unsupported, some of them. So we can help you with that so that we can do that. New swag for Paul. There's a picture of Paul's new pens that I stole from him yesterday. I don't know what else he's getting for this year. Okay, but I will say right now that I have a First Robotics chip clip, and I use it all the time. Okay,
Those are
and
never
yes,
coming back. Never.
I love those. And yes, I do really drive the forklift. There's a reason for that. The brakes aren't that good on it, so I don't want anybody else to hurt themselves. So if there's any other questions, please feel free to ask them, and we'll see if we can help you.
Okay, we do have a couple of questions. I'm not sure how many you can answer, but the aforementioned famous Alan Toms asks, what is the warranty on a RoboRio? Can it be replaced or repaired?
So the RoboRios are warranted directly from NI, okay? There's a special number that you call. I know that Keith Toms had an issue with one, and I gave him that number. So NI does like to replace them. They are warranted actually for 3 years. Okay, we do keep all the serial numbers. So if you have an issue getting a replacement sent to you from NI, let me know. Just give me the serial number of the RoboRio, and I'll see what I can do for you.
I do know a team I was with a few years ago did have a problem with their C-Rio at the time in a competition at Durham College, and between that and the next one, which was in Calgary, they were able to get it replaced from National Instruments. So they do a good job for sure. So we have another question from Julio for you, Derek. He wants to know, do you have certain connections, which he has in quotes, which allow you to speculate parts needed for the not yet released games?
No.
Now remember, this is being recorded, Derek.
I do not have certain connections. Okay, the only thing I can tell people is that think about all the basic mechanisms that have happened in games over the years, right? Okay, and you should start probably to build yourself sample mechanisms from every other game. But no, I'm on an NDA, so unfortunately there are no secrets that I can pass on.
Yes, a whole bunch of us have to sign non-disclosure agreements, which we always laugh about because we never know anything about the game in advance, but we're signing these things. So that's just the way it goes, I guess. Another question we have is, how can we encourage more teams to recycle or be environmentally friendly from year to year with their parts? Do you have any recycling drop-off there or events where you can point people to?
Interesting question. I can get that information for you. So, for instance, a lot of the leftover frames and so on, we actually collect up and use them at events in the pits because people need spare parts. For electronics, I know that we do have an electronics warehouse, and of course, I'll bet that if teams have parts they're not using anymore, that Paul knows some rookie teams, that may want to use those for practice robots.
For sure. We always could use some extra parts. That's absolutely for sure. And
yeah, you remember on my shelf I have what I call the blue bin, and if you're lucky enough to be around, I tell people go look in the blue bin and see what's in there, because sometimes there's motors in there, sometimes there's whole gearboxes in there that are missing one gear, for instance.
And we do get people from time to time, coaches, driving over to Studica sometimes I'm there because I need to get out of the house and away from my computer um, to pick up their own parts, or someone from another school picking up parts for a couple of schools. So we do get the occasional visitor. Sometimes we even give them some swag before they go.
We do. Someone was in last week.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Well, Derek, it's bang on 7:30. I'm pretty impressed because as a teacher, my timing was never very good. So I never know how long these things are going to take. But we've come to the end of our time. I would, unless there's another question or two before we go. But once again, Derek, thanks very much. That was one of the more entertaining ones I've seen or been part of. Of course, Alan's got to get in the last question here. He says, blue bin with a question mark.
It's where all my parts go, and I'll give you an example. So there's something called the robot first aid kit, and somebody at an event needed one gear. You know, it's pretty hard when you send the student with the sad eyes over. So I took a gear out of a whole first aid kit and gave it to the student. Well, after that, I can't do much with it. So all of those parts just go into these blue bins that I keep, you know, full of gearboxes and parts for gears, any little piece that I've got. So if you're ever around, I have what I call the blue bin, and it's full of parts. It's a free-for-all.
So thanks again for that. As I said at the beginning, all these webinars are recorded, including last week's on Shad. Someone's asking about that. And they're all at the First Canada YouTube channel, so you can search that. But once I put this one up, you'll be able to go and listen to this one again, or any of the previous ones. They're all in the same location. So once again, Derek, thanks very much.
Thank you.
We'll talk again, I'm sure. And thanks to everybody who joined us. And have a great time tomorrow at Halloween. Thanks
Excellent.
again.
Thank you, everybody.